Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're finally going to make a start on the city levels of the new Lego room. Hurrah! That is the table levels above all of this subway track, and we're going to do that by exporting some of the scenes, well, a whole district I suppose, from the old Lego room down here via a cleaning process. So we've just got to decide where to start. Now we have made some progress already today. Notice anything different? Yeah, that exterior door used to have a glass pane, letting in UV light, the evil UV light that bleaches Lego bricks and damages them, turning all the whites yellowy. So I had to get some UV film in order to stop that light coming out. And it is pretty good stuff, actually. When you turn out the lights now, it is virtually pitch black in here. Really can't see your hand in front of your face unless you're looking towards the door. There's a tiny bit of light leakage through it and a tiny bit more around the edges where you have to cut it from a much bigger section on a roll. It's kind of the same stuff that we had in the back of the 20,000 bricks under the sea glass cabinet, and we did a much better job this time of being able to keep it sort of movable on a sort of film of water until we were happy, and then cut around the outside. And it's a good thing that I bought a piece that was enough for 2 goes essentially, because our first go was a bit of a disaster. Essentially cut 2 of the sides, and then by the time we cut the third one, the whole thing had kind of shifted in motion. So when it was lined up on the new right hand side, we had probably about, it was probably about 5mm gap on the left. Anyway, it looked awful. So I was like, that is an absolute disaster. I can't live with that much of a gap. But now, on our second attempt, which we did have enough roll to do, there is just a tiny bit of light leakage around the outside. But I think the finished product, which usually comes in black, which makes sense for blackout, but in white, almost looks like the door was built that way and never had a pane on the top half in the first place. So I really like that. That is a job well done. Took a few hours to do it twice, but I'm happy with the results. That's the main thing. So anyway, back to the room. Now, where I figure I will start is this back corner, because it's kind of my, reference point for everything else. If we start there and work both this way and work sort of out that way, then it will kind of define where everything else is, because obviously this is all movable. So, we don't start in this corner, because we might find when we get to the corner, we haven't got the right sort of amount of space. And although we do have a wall on this side, essentially I can take up the variation in gap in one of the 2 huge standing holes that I'm going to have, kind of one in this loop of track and one where I'm standing right now. So basically it's much more flexible. Now, having said that, that corner is basically the corner with the corner station in, that used to have this alien scene under it in the old Lego room, because there are a lot of elements that I'm going to be keeping in common between the two. So if you think about it, the marina will be here, but much bigger, kind of in front of that subway table, and much longer as well. So that's to get your perspective from the old Lego room into this one. So starting in that corner, I'd need to pull out all of the tables and all of the stuff that's built in that corner in the old Lego room. And that's going to be really difficult to do. Basically, kind of starting in a far corner and ripping stuff out and then taking it through and underneath all of the rail bridges and stuff. It's going to be a nightmare. So I need to start somewhere a lot more sensible. And when you go into the old Lego room, the first thing that you have on your left, so the first logical thing to take out, is the harbour. So I think that's where I am actually going to start. So essentially I'm going to go over here where the harbour is going to be. So in the old city it would have been kind of there. I'm switching it. It's going to go on the complete other side of the room underneath this overhang, because I figure that is a relatively low rise part of the city. And when you kind of look from this perspective, yeah, there's a bit of shadow there. Maybe we can light that as well so it's less shadowy. But essentially the harbour can be there at the sea level, which is represented by the tops of all these units over here. So that's where the sea level is going to be. City level obviously a bit higher. So if I can block in this gap over here with a table, so that should be roughly 60 centimetres wide. Well, it will be once there's a table in there. Then the top of that table and the top of this first unit will be the harbour. as represented by the new Harbour set. Very good. So yeah, that's, I think, where I'm going to start. Not because I want to start there in this room, but because, well, that's where I kind of have to start extracting stuff from the old room. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And I think I'm probably going to need 2 passes at it. One to get it out of the old Lego room, cleaned and into the new Lego room. That's sort of stage A. And then I can sort of do stage A with the marina and other bits all over here. But then I'll probably come back to it because there's definite improvements that I want to put into it. And also I want to maximize the space because I think rather than it being 4 base plates deep like the old one is, it's going to be about 4.5 or something, but I won't know exactly until, well, we've worked out all the dimensions from all the other corners of the room and so on. So I think I will have to come back to it. So we're not doing a perfect job today. We're getting it basically mocked up and in rough position so we can get it perfect later. And then you'll have to give me a view on whether you think I should embellish my sea. And what I mean by that is, at the moment, well, there's so much stuff in there, you can barely see the surface of the water. So that's one thing to consider when making your decision. But I've got blue base plates. And I kind of like blue base plates in a way. The studs on them kind of represent waves in my mind. And it's very sort of old school Lego. Now, virtually everyone in the universe who has a channel basically uses tiles to make it a bit of a glassy sea. And in a way, that looks a bit fake because it's completely flat. But then you do get a calm sea, but it also gives it a really good depth, which I do like. It just looks more like water. And it's even quite pleasing from a distance when the light hits it and, well, it looks shimmery. So I'm thinking of investing, since we've got a great big Lego room to make look amazing, in tiles to tile the entire sea. Now, bear in mind, when we make this decision, it isn't just, step over all the trains, it isn't just this area where we'll be seeing water, that whole area covered by my hand, but it's also going to be all the way along here on both of these, and we'll have that double bridge scene kind of about here where the crane is going into that first standing hole. So it will be absolutely front and center across the entire front vista. So I'm thinking tiles is the way to go. So you'll have to let me know what you think of that. I think in this first pass of moving the harbour down here, I'm not going to do the tiling, but I'm going to bring it down, see what will fit, and then later when we know exactly where everything is, I can do the tiling because I don't want to do it twice. It will destroy my fingertips. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. And then that should liberate the next section up, which is basically all of this and the bridges to take all of that down. And obviously we've got a lot more room here in this room than we did in the old one. So in a way, you know, if I made it exactly the same, say there'd be a great big gap for new stuff. And then maybe I made it exactly the same there, maybe with the floating Chinese restaurant, because I want to keep that. Then there'd be a great big new space. And then I have the double bridge. Then and one of those will be completely changed because I'm going to do it with those big Duplo pieces, I think. Then, you know, well, we'll see how it comes together. But essentially, you know, just because I'm bringing whole sections down doesn't mean that they're going to be the same, because there's, well, twice the space to fill. So essentially we're going to have old and new all jiggled together. So that should be really good. And then just to give you a rough view, I think I'm going to have the airport over here now, because that won't be within all of the rail loop that we've currently got on the floor, which sort of gets in the way of a massive airport facade. And then, yeah, the central station in the middle and the fairground roughly where those boxes are. So, you know, macro level, it's the same sort of setup as the old one, but in such a bigger space that, wow, we're going to have whole new districts, including a massive old town, probably a bigger castle, loads of sort of waterfront stuff all the way along here, including over this bit, which will become a tunnel for me to crawl in. I'm probably going to do that last of all. So yeah, we'll try and build out from that corner and then from that corner towards the center middle. And by the time we finished, I can box all this in and then it's crawl space only, baby. So the old Lego room is fast becoming a mess already, with the run of shops that is above the subway station over here and the top of the city hall over there, because I needed access to some of the track for our train videos. So you can see that starting in that corner or extracting from that corner would get us into a mess very soon. So that's my point made, I think. So we're starting over here with the harbour area. Now, I've already mentioned that we don't really know the width this way that we're going to have to play with between the sort of facades against the wall to the fence line, which will separate us from the city level, which is slightly higher up with all of the railway lines. You can see it's about 5-6 bricks higher. So that is the bit that is open for discussion, and what it will mean is, well, we'll just move kind of that section more that way if we've got a bit more space, which will give us a bit more open blue sea in the middle. So we just want to be able to use every stud available. But what we do know at this stage is the depth that we've got to play with, and we've got 4 base plates. Essentially before, or rather right now here, we've got 5. And that means we're going to be losing this front row of base plates along this level. So that's fine. We'll lose the lighthouse for now, but that will just appear slightly more prominently, I suppose, along that entire new front level that we've got somewhere else, as will the Coast Guard helicopter, which we can put hovering maybe near the Coast Guard station. So that's no problem as well. And then Dr. Inferno's warehouse. Well, I figure that if the new front's sort of going along there, then essentially it turns a corner and starts going the other way. So that can be the first thing along the other way. So I think that will fit. So it's kind of just these 3 base plates that are going to get lost temporarily. We probably will therefore need to shuffle the last pier in a bit, because otherwise it'd be right on the edge and might look a bit weird. And, well, a few things are going to be harder to relocate than others because, well, I've already mentioned that this is going to be on the other side of the new Lego room, so therefore we have to mirror everything. So essentially, I can't mirror things like the El Dorado Fortress, but it can still go in the corner, except now the white tower will kind of be on the front corner and the yellow tower will be against the wall. That's no biggie, might even look better, who knows. But things like these built-in cargo containers that go around that corner are going to need a complete mirroring, so they're kind of on a that way corner rather than on a that way corner, if that makes sense. Well, it'll all become clear later on, but essentially, yeah, some things will be a direct sort of drag and drop, just turn them around 180 degrees. Other things will be a bit harder, but yeah, otherwise I'm hoping that it'll end up roughly like this, but without these 2 bits all facing the other way, if you see what I mean, by the end of today. So yeah, that is our task. How hard that'll be, I don't know. We'll find out, I suppose. Well, it wasn't too hard liberating all of the cranes and the ships from the harbour area, though they do take up an amazing amount of space when all spread out like this. I've left most of the hardwired stuff from the city side of things in the old Lego room at the moment, and brought up all of the stuff from along the exterior wall to put along my new exterior wall on this unit here, and a new IKEA table put into the corner, which is looking a bit shadowy, but we can add lights later. We'll see how it looks. And I've done that slightly proud of the unit, just because it's on legs and I think they'll sink into the carpet a little bit. I can always crawl under there and fine tune it if need be, and keep it nice and level. And the El Dorado Fortress is going to go straight into the far corner. And you know what? I think we get a slightly better view than we did before now, because obviously you can't mirror this, as I said earlier, because of the 3D base plate. So we used to have that view into the city with a white tower in the corner, but looking a bit like we're looking at its shoulder or something, where I figure this view is more like looking at its face. I like that. We can see that lovely ramp up and the cannon pointing directly at us. I like it a great deal with the prison in the background, so that's very good actually. And tucked behind that will be our container wall, and this is the first of 2 large builds that I've mirrored, which is not my favourite job. I've just been doing that with some music on, and it's a bit soul destroying, but it is necessary. So what I mean by that is that everything that used to be on the left is now on the right, and everything on the right is now on the left. So it's an exact duplicate of what it was before, but just, well, mirrored. So yeah, that is rather annoying, but a necessary job. So that will now tuck into behind the El Dorado Fortress, and with the open container on the end, that dark turquoise one, with its rubber ducks spilling into the sea, will then go onto the pier that goes underneath the dark green crane that goes on there. then the door, then the top secret sauce, and then the sardine factory, of course. And this has all been mirrored as well. So this is the second big build that I mirrored brick for brick. So it's all back to front from where it was before, all in the same order, which is why it looks so familiar. So that will go roughly where the containers are now. I can put in some of the base plates and some of the piers, and then, yeah, we'll have that first segment in, and then we can start focusing on the more road plate based bit that's still up in the Lego room at the moment. And we'll just see how dark it is in that corner. I don't think it'll be that bad. You can see why I'm using this area for this, because it's a very horizontal, great big sprawl. And, you know, we're not using that full height that's there already. So I just figure it's more real estate for the city. People wanted me to box it in and make it into an underground sort of area or something like that. But I figure that this whole shelf will be underground area on all three of these. So basically we'll have absolutely loads of underground stuff. We won't need to box in a great big area that's going to be very hard to reach into if you did box it in. I mean, it's a good meter deep. So yeah, I think this is the best solution for it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having the Eldorado facing this direction. It looks great. Good, good. Well, the first segment is in and it's looking pretty good actually. It's very interesting to see it from this angle. I don't usually see it from this direction, given I'd be standing in the middle of a table in the old Lego room. I have had to constrict it a little bit, as I said, because it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now it's only 4 base plates. So in order to get space enough for some of my more narrow fishing boats along this edge, which I think looks absolutely great, really shows them off, I've had to lose some space. And the only place that I could do that, because this middle section is a set width for 2 large ships to be serviced by these cranes, I've kind of cut it in here after this pier. So basically all the docks are now spilling out slightly to the side, and that open container doesn't have the open water in front of it. So we've lost a little bit of that scene, but as I say, on the second pass we'll be able to do a rejigging of all of this when we know what space we've got, because I'm thinking that this whole harbour area will be able to go up to about here actually. And if that is the case, well, we're only sort of 2 base plates in. Instead of it only being 4 in this direction, we might actually gain that 5th one back. So yeah, it'll just be completely different geometry, but net the same size. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and that'll mean it will look a bit more like the ships can actually turn a circle to actually get in the place where they couldn't before. So yeah, I like that. Now I definitely think I'll need a light on the underside there. Mrs. Hood was saying I should get one of those battery powered ones where you just kind of touch it with your hand and it switches on, and then I wouldn't need to worry about any wires going into this surface, because that's our stairs up to the 2nd floor of Hood Towers. So yeah, I don't really want to drill into that. God knows what I'd hit. But yeah, that would be quite good at isolating that area. I think even when I've got brighter bulbs in the ceiling, those filming lights, which I haven't yet done because they're in the old room, I don't think it's going to make that shadow any better. In fact, it'll probably make it a little bit worse, I don't know, or more of a contrast. But yeah, looking good. So that is the end of day 1 of the move. That and the amendments to our door, our external door that we looked at earlier, have been a full day's work, believe it or not. Yeah, get everything clean and right and back in its place and mirrored, remember, has been quite a long job. Anyway, yeah, success. Alrighty, day 2, and I've picked up where I left off, unsurprisingly, by doing the next whole section, which will be along the wall from the Eldorado Fortress this way. And yeah, this whole thing has been mirrored. So before we had Carl's Cargo, the illicit base of these ne'er-do-wells who are currently welding through a pair of handcuffs to release a felon. That would have been on the left-hand side of this whole setup, and the T-junction would have been on the right. So yeah, it's all completely opposite. And it's quite nice to rebuild these actually, because each one's got a little scene inside. We've got the security guard for the barrier in there, the harbour master in the City Lines office. But in here, we've got a pair of surveillance cops, one with listening equipment and one looking through the periscope coming out of the roof. Very subtle indeed. Spying on the ne'er-do-wells in Dock 13 as well. And they have a safe, which I don't think is theirs actually. And they're trying to break into it with a crowbar. Good luck with that. Yeah, so all those scenes are actually hidden away most of the time with the doors closed, but yeah, far too far to reach to have a play with usually. And that's what I prioritise in my city, I suppose, is having as big as unbroken sort of layout as possible with as few standing holes as possible as well. And that does mean that a lot of it is very hard to reach, definitely for a very casual look anyway at any one time. But I think I prefer that, not being able to reach it and having much more depth in the longer run. So yeah, that looks pretty good if you ask me. Cool. So that's that back in position, and it kind of highlights what I mentioned yesterday, and we might have a bit more room this time this way. Basically, that is roughly where I think it will probably end up, though it's going to be varied from there depending on where everything else works out and whether the room is square and so on, which it won't be. But essentially, there is room for half a base plate more on the width in my first guesstimate. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to fill that in, so I'll probably push it up for now because I don't think I've got enough blue base plates. But it just shows that we will have a little bit more space in this direction, making up for what we've lost in that direction in the harbour. So that is good to know. I'm just starting to put the ships in. Just thought I'd highlight the fact that I have used some of these really vintage stickers that somebody sent in on a sticker sheet. Sadly, they are sort of curling up, I think, due to age. I'm wondering if some sort of Pritt stick glue or something will help glue those down and hold them in position, but still having nice big red and blue ships in the container depots will be amazing as always, and a lot easier to see now, I think, from further away and from up front, close and personal when you're looking from over here. That is absolutely great. Now, one thing I also want to include, though probably further along the waterfront when it extends all the way along here, is my new crane, the red one, that comes with the new harbour set. But I think I'm going to have to modify that in due course because it is completely static. And that's my criticism of this one, really. I mean, if you want to put both these containers onto this ship, then essentially you can wheel one vertically down into the hole and hope that the ship is lined up. And then if you wanted to put one in the second bay, well, the ship would have to move because this thing is completely static and welded to the floor. So that is not how they really work. They really work like this white one that I've got already, which is basically on tracks, on wheels. So once it's picked it up, it can move it slightly left and right, as well as in and out on this bit, and as well as up and down on the string. So yeah, I think I'll be amending mine to do that. But it is very good looking in that blocky red colour, so I like that. So maybe we'll have that about here or where that ship is with this unit moved all the way back up to here. And the first thing will probably be that Dr. Inferno base that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, that'll be probably solid cargo up to about there, and then it'll be bridges and all sorts of other Coast Guard stations and stuff like that. Yeah, cool. We continue to make progress. Yep, you guessed it. Next section mirrored. And that is looking really good as well. Another fisherman, a seagull, and the cranes and the flowers on the fence. All looking good. And there's the ramp down for the ferry, which is a very, very cool set if you ask me. It wasn't even expensive, but it's very sizable and very playable if you ask me. I think Lego should make more different sets. They seem to do the same things in cycle, a lot of construction stuff, police, fire and all the rest of it. But how often do we get a ferry or something like that? Not very often. When was the last hovercraft? I can't remember one. Anyway, yeah, that will go back in there. So this will all go from that road, T-junction, onto these two ramps. And I think I'm going to have a lot more of these pier pieces in the city, not necessarily going all the way along the frontage, but definitely for a section of it. I'm not going to place the Dr. Inferno base today because I don't know whereabouts on that whole run it will want to go now. I've got more options, but I will be adding the cranes in and yeah, the ferry, etc. All those different bits and bobs to make it a living scene. And yeah, then we'll need to incorporate the new stuff as well. But yeah, let me get this in position and we'll see how it looks. Then I can drag this unit back in and we'll start to see it kind of coming round the corner and creating that first bit of the front view, that front profile on the three different levels. Looking good? All right, so here we are, the first district down from the old Lego room into the new one. This whole side on the left is just kind of mashed together very quickly just to sort of give an impression of roughly how it might look in the future. I think I'll be rearranging all of this and having it built into cliffs. And well, actually, I've got a couple of surprises planned for this area. I think the lighthouse will probably end up on the other side over there. But the area that is complete, or at least for its phase 1 version, is the harbour proper, and it looks absolutely great. It was quite a lot of work mirroring everything, not much fun at times, but there's a couple of real improvements already. Not so much the shadow, but I think it is a good use of that space, and we can fix that with a light. But I think the sky blue on the walls really does make everything much improved. I mean, we already commented on how our battle in the skies above brick Nottingham looks great against the blue, and I think this is also a great improvement. So that's very nice indeed. And do you know what? I actually prefer the fact that it's a bit smaller now and a bit more spread out, because essentially things like the El Dorado Fortress, you can actually see all of the pirate scenes, including the guardsman that was sent in with his hat on fire there just over the ramparts. See those rubber ducks a lot more closely. Everything was a bit too far away before. I mean, if you really lean in here, you could probably even open the doors on all of those crook hideouts. So yeah, I think it's actually a bit more accessible, if anything, now. I like that a great deal. So I haven't brought down the last section, which would go around this corner, which will be all of the remaining container wall and so on, because that's going to be a much different length now. So that will need redoing. So I'll probably just modify what's already there. So it still goes around the corner, and I'll just miss out some of the middle bits. And in the long term, I think we'll be rethinking, well, the whole area, as I say, for the distance that is available to make best use of it. But I want to have a much more of a skyline along that back wall. I mean, at least from this perspective, if I just step over some train track, we've got the sardine factory, all those cranes, the container wall, the fortress and so on, but it does get a bit more low rise against this wall, but that is definitely something we can fix. And I'm glad I started here, because being where I'm standing right now, it's made it a lot easier to piece together because it had to be pulled apart. I've done very well at securing all of these sections together, so well that they were very hard to break up in the old Lego room and very hard to put together again here. But with this close access, it's made it a lot easier. It would have been really hard to do last when we'd boxed ourselves in. But yeah, it's still incredibly busy. All of those ships filling up the area. But, even with the new one now, because of this extra real estate that we're going to have all along the front and on the other section, over there we can have, some boats going around the double bridge, as will be. I think it'll actually be a lot more spread out and maybe even less dense than it was before, which I think will leave some space for some smaller watercraft. And I've just put in the 2 flyers for the Dr. Inferno scene, along with the ship. Dr. Inferno's sort of, LPG tanker, which is actually a very, very dangerous but concealed kind of Bond-villain-esque missile ship with 2 great big intercontinental ballistic missiles hidden in its 2 gas canisters. If you haven't seen that video, there's videos on absolutely all these builds if you're relatively new to the channel, so do check out the back catalogue. Some of them now will be mirrored, but otherwise exactly the same. So yeah, that's really cool. And I have to incorporate this a lot more thoroughly. And yeah, big surprise coming along for this section in the future. Cool. Well, next time, I think we might have to continue around here. Believe it or not, that corner is where I'm thinking of doing the mine, which never made it into the old city. So that might be a section to go next. That'll be on a slightly higher level for the city. So we'll just have it on 3 legs, and on where the 2 tables overlap, it'll probably need a shorter leg, which will be either one of these sort of under kitchen cabinet type ones, or one of the ones in that box, which is slightly longer as well. So yeah, loads to get going, but I'm really happy with the start. I think this will look even better when we've got rid of all these cardboard boxes and we've got loads of underwater scenes in this whole section with beasties like the one that we modified from the Avatar set recently. Might have to start putting that sort of stuff down there. And then underneath all of that, we'll have the completely subterranean underground level going around the L shape on that profile, and that can be, well, a continuation of what we'll have with the mine that I just mentioned up there. So maybe we'll have the start of a sort of railway going into that, and it can continue down here in a sort of Temple of Doom type way. Who knows? Lots of time to invent all the ideas that will go down there. But yeah, I'm happy with that. Looks really great against the sky blue. I think I'm going to be going on Amazon to sort of investigate some suitable lights for the underside of it. But yeah, I'm very happy with it. A lot of work, but at least we've got a good result. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, yeah, we'll be doing a brick haul on our sister channel, Brick Haul O'Clock, and then we'll be moving another district into the Lego room, unless I get impatient and decide I have to do a new build in the meantime. Well, we'll see, won't we? But until all of that, see you! You know what this harbour needs, don't you? It's more seagulls.